Hey there friends, and thanks for joining me, and today I want to talk about a little bit of a squirrely topic, and that is loaning money to friends and family. Now, I have a couple things I need to preface this with. First of all, I want to point out that I am really not a preachy person in real life. If someone were to come to me and say, oh, I just bought this or did that or, whatever, haha, putting more money in the credit card or whatever, joking about whatever it is they do. Or like today, someone was like, oh yeah, I can't have enough fall decorations. And I know this person well enough to know that that's not even their money that they're spending and that they can't afford it. I was just like, whatever, not going to say anything. I am not a preachy person in real life. So keep that in mind. And then secondly, I'm not a real get tough with people kind of person. This kind of goes hand in hand with the whole preachy thing until there's a real reason for it. So I do have the ability to dole out that tough love and be that hard butt. But I only do that when there's a case where I truly need to do that. So there you go. Before you start getting mad at me over stuff I'm about to say, keep that in mind, please. So the first thing I want to talk about is about the people who do intend to pay and the people who don't intend to pay. The way that this kind of works, basically what you see here is how this works in my head. It's somewhat of a flow chart. So the first thing ring ring, hey, so-and-so wants to borrow some money. I think to myself, does this person truly intend to pay it back or don't they? And honestly, if this person doesn't really intend to pay it back, if they're asking to borrow money, basically what they're asking is for me to give them money. And so there are a couple of reasons why they would be wanting me to give them money. The first is that they want it given because they can't pay it back. And so there's really nowhere to go with that. They can't pay it back, and so I can't really loan them the money, honestly. The second one would be if this person can pay it back. This person can pay it back, but doesn't really intend to pay it back. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Pretty much, I know that I would be getting used if I were to give this person the money, and I would be basically subsidizing their, irresponsibility and their immaturity. If they are asking for money because they have shopping problems or, they just buy now and pay later kind of people, they just need, want all these things and they can't really pay for them, with cash. These are all things that, they need to kind of grow up from anyway, and they need to be more responsible, and I'm not going to subsidize keeping them in that state. Does that make sense? So pretty much any time the person does not plan to pay it back, whether it's because they can or they can't, my answer is pretty much going to be no. However, the other side, if a person does intend to pay, I have basically 4 questions I now ask. The first 2 are in my head, and the second 2 I actually ask of them. And the first one is one I ask of myself, and I think, what is this person's payment history? Pretty much this is a make or break. If the person does have a pretty good payment history, we move on to the next question. If this person does not have a good payment history, pretty much it just puts them right back into that other category where they are asking for money, but they don't really intend to pay it back. They may think they are, they may say they are, but they don't. And so the answer is going to be no. With me, their credit is no longer good, and I'm not willing to move on. The second one would be, I ask myself, what kind of other debts or obligations does this person have? Because the more debts or other obligations they have, if they already have, a certain amount of money that they're making and all those obligations, it's going to be a lot more tough for them to pay that money back. So if they already have a lot of others, I'm probably going to, recommend maybe they make some other cuts to their budget instead. So yeah, that's definitely something I think about to weigh my risk as to whether or not I'm going to get the money back. The next question is a question I ask of them, and I basically ask, what is the money for? And I'm asking this for 2 reasons. I want to find out if this is a need or a want. So let's say that the thing was a want. They want a new phone, and they don't want to wait until Friday when their payday is. Pretty much I tell them no, and then I give them a nice little lecture, a little speech about delayed gratification and how it's good for us to save up money first before we buy things and that sort of thing. And so that's pretty much where that ends up. And I will say, as I'm moving on to the next side, lecturing people when they call to ask for money is the fastest way to get your friends and family to stop asking for money from you, because apparently lecturing them is annoying. Again, I don't do this usually in my life. Only when people ask for my opinion is it that I give their opinion. But also when they ask to borrow money, they're opening themselves up to, my telling them how I feel about the money that they're asking for. So that's why I do this. The next thing would be if the money was in fact a need. So this is something where, obviously I am going to feel badly for them, and if they have a good payment history with me and all this sort of stuff, if they've gotten to this point, I am willing to hear the request and kind of move on with the process. So the next thing I ask is how much. If the amount of money they need is a lot, even though this is in fact a need, I'm going to have to tell them no for several reasons. First of all, I can't really afford to give them the money. And then second of all, I will try to give them suggestions, say, hey, you could probably start saving up for these kinds of things. And, into every life some rain must fall. We all need an umbrella, so we need to have some money that we're setting aside for savings for when these types of things arise and that sort of stuff. So I will give them, suggestions and things like that. But unfortunately, that does not lead to a yes answer to be able to give them the money, because I would be putting our family at risk by agreeing to that, and I'm not willing to do that. So, however, if the money is a little bit of money, I am willing to go ahead and move on with the process. And so the things that I will next do is maybe give them a little bit of a budgeting lecture. Again, the same thing, you probably need an emergency fund, this sort of stuff that's going to help you to where when you do have something you need, you can actually cover it, that sort of stuff. And then I will discuss a repayment plan with them. And this is critically important, because when we just loan money out to people and say, all right, thanks, we don't really have a plan on when we're going to see the money back. So we're much more likely to get the money back if we put together this payment plan. Your payday is this day. You're going to pay, all of it that day. Or if they can't afford it over the one, payday, maybe they will have to split it up between two. Probably if it was any higher than that, that would fall into the a lot category, and so the answer would be no. But the actual amounts that they're going to give and the dates that they're going to do so is really important to me, that I need to know. That way I can be, catching up with them on that day if I need to, if they haven't already, texted me, that sort of thing, to make sure that that actually happens. And so in this instance, I actually do say yes. I actually do loan money to my friends and family who are in fact responsible, do intend to pay it back, and do have needs that they, actually do need covered. So I know a lot of other people basically have a blanket rule that they do not loan money to their friends and family. And honestly, I can understand that, because it can really hurt our relationships, as I wanted to mention here in a little bit. So, do keep that in mind. Even if they intend to pay it back, other things may come up, and it may end up being that they can't pay you back, or they don't pay you back for whatever reason. And so that can be a little bit difficult, again, on those relationships. So a couple things I want to talk about really quickly is that we are really not obligated to help them, even if there are children. So aunts, uncles, brothers, cousins, anyone pretty much who's coming to us and asking for money, children over the age of 18 that are now adults, we are not technically obligated to help them. And a lot of people will loan the money out because they feel guilty. They feel like they have that obligation to do so. But we are not. We are obligated to take care of our own family and watch out for our own financial affairs first. And so if it's going to put us in any kind of a bind or whatever, we need to be able to tell them no. So this is really important. And then, of course, keep in mind that this can be a little bit tough, even if we do say no, they probably will get mad at us for a little while. But honestly, loaning them money that they don't end up paying back will probably end up being more of a wedge between us than just simply saying, I'm sorry, I can't now. That's a smaller, amount of anger, as, opposed to a larger amount where we end up strained or stressed because we can't pay our own bills now, or we were counting on that money for whatever other reason, or we give them our whole emergency fund and then our emergencies come up and then we're screwed, that sort of thing. So definitely need to make sure that we are, being really careful about this. So, looking at the time now, it looks like I'm not going to be able to cover the next topic really quick. So I'm going to just go ahead and put this into a video number 2, co-signing on a loan. And then I'll just wrap this one up here. So anyway, this is sort of my flow chart on how I go through whether or not I will loan money to my family and friends. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. I'm Frugal Green Girl, and we'll see you next time.